What is up, guys? Rick Cactus here, and today we are going to be showcasing a really interesting and powerful shotgun in Destiny 2 Forsaken, as well as talking about how to acquire this weapon, which is going to involve talking quite a bit about Nightfalls. Now, before we get into that, guys, after months, I have finally got my merch store up and running with a bunch of really sweet stuff. I'm really happy about how it turned out. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, just check the link in the description down below. Now, let's talk about this weapon. It is the Toil and Trouble Vanguard shotgun, and you can acquire this weapon just randomly by leveling up the Vanguard, either by turning in tokens or by doing the daily and weekly Vanguard challenges. You can get this weapon as a reward. However, that's not the one we're talking about today, a random one. We are talking about a very specific one, because if you go to Zavala, you'll notice that he's actually selling a pre-rolled Toil and Trouble shotgun that already comes Masterwork 10 in range. And I'm sure you can imagine a already Masterwork 10 range shotgun is pretty darn powerful. That specifically is the weapon we're reviewing today, and also talking about how to get it, because how you do make this weapon available to purchase from Zavala is by leveling up your overall Vanguard rank, which is extremely easy, just turn in tokens, but also you need to be level 14 in your Nightfall rank. And a lot of players are unsure about what exactly this means and how to level your Nightfall rank up efficiently, and that's the first part of this video. So, Nightfall rank. How do you increase that? Well, essentially, every 100,000 points that you achieve within a Nightfall is going to count towards one rank. So, if you play one Nightfall, let's say you play the Pyramidian Nightfall, and you get 110,000 points, and right after you do that, you head to Zavala and check your Nightfall rank, it's going to list it as 1, up from 0. However, if you actually check the Nightfall emblem that you can find in your flare of the collections, activities, and it's down near the bottom left, it'll actually say 1.1, because you got 110,000. That's right, it's cumulative over several Nightfalls. So if you get 50,000k in one Nightfall, 50,000k in another Nightfall, you actually rank up from Nightfall rank 0 to 1, right? It will combine scores, and again, every 100,000 is when you hit that point where you do increase a rank. However, the big thing here is that if you do 100,000, like I said, in the Pyramidium, then farm it again and do another 100,000, you're going to stay at rank 1. You have to spread your points out over many different Nightfalls. Once you achieve a score in a certain Nightfall, you can't just keep farming that same one. So it's really important that when the weekly reset happens, to try to do as well as you can in all 3 of the available Nightfalls. Now, your Nightfall rank is overall account-wide, so that does mean you can get 100,000 with one character, switch characters, get 100,000 with another character, and then your overall Nightfall rank is going to be 2. So that is a good way that you don't have to farm Nightfalls for no reason, you just switch characters. So, that is the basics of increasing your Nightfall rank, but how do you do it efficiently? What are the modifiers and techniques you should use to get those big scores? Because if you can get 200, 250, 300,000 on a certain Nightfall, well, that's 2 to 3 ranks on one Nightfall, and that's going to help massively. Heck, if you get 250 on 2 different Nightfalls, you've just ranked up 5 times. And that's going to save you weeks of grinding if you're just doing 100,000 on all 3 of the available Nightfalls per week. So, the first thing you're going to need to do, and I need to mention this for any new players watching, is acquire the 5 of Swords item. This is a special thing you buy from Xur, and it will allow you to add modifiers and change the power level disparity of your Nightfall runs, and that is key for getting those big point Nightfalls when doing your Prestige Nightfall. So make sure you have that item, and now the next thing I'm going to recommend is get to as high of a power level as possible. The best would be 600. That's what I'm running with, and I know a lot of people aren't quite there yet, but the higher the better. And the reason being is because a lot of your points in your Nightfall run is going to come from just increasing that power level disparity. because you have 2 arrows, one up, one down. If you make the negative bonus, so the higher the bonus is, that's going to make you go down more and more light levels. And if you're 600, the Nightfall starts at 540. So that means you can increase the power level disadvantage all the way to 60, and it's going to bring you down to parity with all of the enemies. You're going to go through the Nightfall and you won't even see a red sword symbol above the enemies' heads. They're going to be the same light level as you, and you will have the same advantages as if you're over leveled, because in Destiny 2 you don't get really any advantage for being over power level when compared to something else. If you're 600 and you're 540 and the enemy is 540, it's going to be the same damage dealt and received. Now, what about modifiers? Which ones should you run? Well, always run a burn, because not only will the right burn make things easier, you're actually going to do more damage, but it will also give you a points bonus. But your burn is really going to depend on what strike you're doing. So if you know the strike and you go, okay, there's a lot of guys with solar here, don't put on solar. Even if you have Sleeper Simulants, which I would definitely recommend, it's probably one of the best heavies for doing this, it's not worth the extra damage incoming. So if there's a ton of goblins and there's a ton of Vex with hobgoblins and stuff, don't run solar. Same with if there's a ton of void. If the boss does void, don't run void. Run the burn that the least enemies do. That's key. Moving on from there, the next thing you want, extinguish. This makes it so that if you die, you go back to orbit. It totally sucks, but if you're going to a really high score, you can't really afford to be dying and wiping anyways. Your score is going to decay so much if you're dying constantly. So this is just something that you're going to have to deal with and play very efficiently to avoid going all the way back to orbit. Moving on from there, match game. This is another really important one. It's going to give you a huge bonus, and match game is actually pretty easy to deal with. All you need is to have your team each run a different element. You say, okay, I'm going to take Void. Just run a Void auto rifle. That's exactly what I'm doing. Then have another guy run whatever energy weapon he wants with Arc, and the last guy, Solar. Solar, if everyone is running the Sleeper, you can kind of avoid doing that, but it's still probably best to spread it out. Subclasses as well. Speaking of subclasses, having stuff like Tether, especially with Orpheus Rigs, even still very useful, because you want to be chaining supers as much as possible during your Nightfall run. It's just going to get you more points. Orbs produced is also going to gain you more points, so that is again very important. Moving on from there, the last modifier is Blackout. This makes it so that enemies do significantly more melee damage and you have no radar. Kinda sucks again, but you'll get used to it. Play your distance, don't get too close to enemies, and thankfully Bungie did nerf it so it's not an instant kill melee. It'll do a lot of damage, but often you will survive enough to shotgun them in the face to just get out of there. But those are kind of the main modifiers that you want to run. Those are the modifiers that's going to let you get to those 100,000, 200,000 and beyond scores efficiently. Stuff like Famine can completely screw you over. If you get, no primary, no special, you're done, right? These things you can fight through. Alright, so that's it for the first half of this video, which is a guide for how to get high Nightfall scores, and now on to the second half, which is a review for the vendor role Toil and Trouble, because it will take you a long time, hours of grinding for this weapon. Is it going to be worth it? Well, the vendor role does come with some very important and very good things. Our range Masterwork 10 is excellent with a shotgun, but also it does have full choke as a perk. Now, this will decrease the range, but a tip if you're using shotguns is that range is not necessarily as important as you may think it is. A lot of people tend to overemphasize range, but full choke, tightening the spread, that's going to give it an increase in range, even though it's not going to show in the stats, even though in fact it's going to show a stat decrease by putting on full choke as opposed to, I think, small bore as the top one. It is going to allow you to kill people at further ranges because that tightened spread, if all of your pellets are hitting on one target, you can map people with this gun. And some of the background gameplay, you're going to see there's some pretty far distances in which I'm able to kill people at full health. Now the trade-off is that you do have to be very accurate with this shotgun. You can't just kind of randomly ait people and spray and hope for the best. Sometimes you can with that, but this one you will have to aim down sights. You will have to aim for center mass, because that Titan spread, yes, it gives you an advantage in range, but it does mean you have to be accurate. And aside from that, you actually have Assault Mag and Full Auto, so even though this is the highest damaging and lowest rate of fire shotgun archetype, those things combined actually make it shoot reasonably fast. I never felt necessarily overwhelmed. There's a couple of times I wish I would have shot a little bit faster, I guess, but you're able to shoot one guy and shoot the guy right beside him pretty darn quickly. But overall, this was a very powerful and enjoyable weapon to use in PvP. We already know the prevalence of shotguns in the Crucible. They are everywhere. People are aping. But with this, you're going to be able to out-ape the apes. Seriously. There was many times when I saw people charging at me with shotguns, and I was able to aim down sights and shoot them as they just charged at me at ranges which clearly they didn't expect to be killed at. They were definitely in the process of trying to close the gap even further to get at their optimal range. And so it did feel good to have a weapon that functioned at better ranges than most other people's shotguns. And that is a huge, huge upside of getting this weapon. I also love the iron sights. Like, I don't know why, I just really liked it. It's a little bit of a peg and then two more pegs that come in. Well, obviously you can see the background gameplay, but that helped you line up those, again, you have to be accurate. It helped you line up those accurate shots on people really, really easily. Sometimes with shotguns, they never even have a front peg. They just have the back, most lazy peg, and it's kind of just open air, and it can be a little bit difficult to aim when people are moving and stuff. This helped you acquire targets that were moving, that were jumping, which, let's be honest, hunters are jumping when you even stare at them, so it was an actual advantage, I will say, for those front sights. So overall, great weapon. Like, if you don't have a good shotgun, if you're running around with a Badlander or even a parcel of Stardust, this roll is going to be superior in PvP. Now, that in PvP is definitely the caveat. Although it's actually much better in PvP than I expected it to be, especially because with this roll, the rate of fire is kicked up so much, and it's really easy to get kills, and with the intrinsic perk with this weapon, pick up the rate of fire as well. So it was actually performing decently, but let's be honest, it's no escalation shotgun. However, with all of that being said, although this is a really good weapon and a pretty darn good roll, it isn't actually a god roll. You can get a Toil and Trouble randomly, mainly that comes with accurized rounds to straight up increase the range instead of having something like Assault Mag. If you do, and also get range Masterwork, you've pretty much already got a better roll than what is being offered by Zavala. Not only that, you can replace some of the perks right now. Moving Target I don't like too much, and Full Auto, it's nice at times, but it's not as good as something like Rampage that can spawn with this weapon, or Slide Shot, or Snapshot Sights. Those are all things that can come in the place of those two perks. So, like, that is definitely the better roll. In fact, this does have a curated exotic roll that actually comes with full choke, accurized rounds, auto-loading holster, which isn't great, and full auto, and just because of the accurized rounds, that's going to be better than this vendor roll. So you can definitely get a random Toil and Trouble as long as you get full choke, accurized rounds, and range Masterwork. It's better than Zavala's roll, and you can get even better than that, I believe, with the combination of, I would say, Slide Shot and Rampage. That is the absolute god tier roll. And so guys, there you have it. Kind of two videos in one, but I hope you guys found this interesting and useful. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.